Hello, everybody. Shavua Tov. Happy Hanukkah. I hope you had a lovely Shabbat, and I hope your start to Hanukkah has been joyful. Tonight, we are going to learn 3 lessons about Hanukkah from the Kedushat Levi. He's our Hasidic rabbi who we've been studying for the past few months together. And let's jump right into it. So we'll begin with the Kedushat Levi's assessment of all the Jewish holidays. He says each Jewish holiday is connected to a particular sense and a particular kind of miracle. So we'll start with this comment. He says, Haklal hu, Barosh Hashanah v'Yom HaKippurim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu poked et Yisrael l'tova. Rak b'Chanukah Yisrael ro'im hatova b'sechel. He says, this is a general principle. On Rosh Hashanah and on Yom Kippur, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God brings goodness to the people of Israel. Poked et Yisrael l'tova. Rak b'Chanukah Yisrael ro'im hatova b'sechel. But on Hanukkah, we actually see this joy. We feel this joy. What he's talking about here is that Hanukkah is our first holiday since the high holidays. And on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we're blessed by having come through those holidays, and God wants to give us blessing. And on Hanukkah, it's the first time that we see these blessings come to fruition. We see what it means to be blessed to be Jewish. The Harkan, and after this, and he's going to go into this idea of ro'im, that we see it. He says, Kihu l'shon re'iyah. And specifically, he says, we use the language of something visual with Hanukkah. You can maybe think why. He says, V'harken Purim hu hadibor. He says, Purim, the mitzvah is really about speech and hearing. We are supposed to read the Megillah. We're supposed to hear the Megillah. He says, Kikorim et Megillah. But Pesach hu b'maaseh. And on Passover, we relate to that holiday with action. He says, She'ochel matzah, because the essence of that holiday is eating the matzah. Ulahach Hanukkah. But Hanukkah, he says, Shehu al ha-re'iyah. It is about seeing miracles. These 3 holidays, Hanukkah, Purim, and Passover, all encompass some kind of miracle. Hanukkah, the miracle, of course, is the oil and the lamp and the Maccabees defeating the Greeks. And Purim, of course, Esther and the Jews of Shushan beating Haman. And then Passover, of course, the plagues and the parting of the sea. He says for each of these, there's a different way that we relate to the holiday, that we relate to that miracle. For Purim, that miracle, the essence of it, and relating to the holidays with speech and listening. For Passover, it's with action, but for Hanukkah, it's visual. We're supposed to see the Chanukiah, and that's it. That's our connection to the miracle of Hanukkah is through sight, through vision, through seeing it. And to me, this is where we get our first lesson, which is that there's different ways we experience miracles. There are some that are in speech. When you hear maybe a child say his or her first word, or you hear exactly the thing that you've been waiting to from somebody who you're listening to. There's miracles in action. You can kind of imagine this is maybe the most tangible kind of miracle when something glorious happens to you. And then finally, with Hanukkah, we learn from this holiday that there's miracles in sight too. When we see something beautiful, there can be miracles there. So if you're looking for a miracle, this is the first lesson, which is that you don't need to look just with one of your senses. You might find a miracle in speech, in words that you hear, in some kind of action, in something that you see, maybe even in something that you smell. Um, but miracles, we can experience miracles with any one of our actions, with any one of our senses, and it's we're not limited to just one way to experience a miracle. So on Hanukkah, we do it specifically with sight, and so in these 8 days, I'll invite you to look around and to pay a little bit more attention to the things you see, and to find miracles just in the visuals of the world around you. Yes, and my mom, Elaine, in Florida, says miracles come in different shapes and sizes. Exactly. Different shapes, sizes, and qualities. They might be audible, they might be tangible, they might be visual. Okay, that's lesson number 1. Now, here's lesson number 2. The Kedusha Levi says, Lama asu zecher l'nes Hanukkah, v'lo l'nes Gidon v'chizkiah. So why do we remember the miracle of Hanukkah and not the miracle of, say, Gideon or Chizkiah? Efshar lomar. Let me make sure this is the comment I want to read. Hold on. Okay, we're not going to read that one, but come next Hanukkah, maybe we'll do it, because there's 2 other ones that I want to share with you, and it's this one. So it says, B'Hanukkah, now the Kedusha Levi is going to ask, why do we light this specific number of candles? We all light, of course, 1 candle, increasing each night, 1, 2, 3, up to 8. And what is the significance of that number? He says, B'Hanukkah anu madlikim 36 nerot. He says, on Hanukkah, we light 36 candles. And that, of course, is 1 plus 2, etc., plus 8 at the end. And he says this general principle, which is that the actions we do down here have a kind of awakening effect in heaven above. Kenegdo nidlak lamala 36 nerot. And he says it's like as if we're lighting above also 36 candles. So first of all, I love that visual, that when we're lighting our Hanukkah, also we are lighting a kind of Hanukkah up above too. It's not, our mitzvot aren't limited, to the world down here. They also extend upward. So when we light our 36 candles for Hanukkah, we're also lighting, he says, 36 candles up above. Ushloshim v'shisha dilamala im shloshim v'shisha dilamata hu shivim ushnayim. 36 candles above and 36 candles below make 72. Keneged shivim ushnayim baruchu. Like the 72 letter name of God, blessed be God. In Kabbalah, there's different ways to extend God's 4-letter name, Yud He Vav He, and the longest extension is 72, and that's the holiest number as far as God's name. So God's holiest name is comprised of 72 letters. If you're curious, by the way, how do we know what those are? One of our prayers that we say on Friday night, Ana Bakoach, each of the words, you'll notice there's 72 words. Beginning in each of those words, the first letter is one of those 72 letters in God's name. So we actually use that 72 letter name of God in our liturgy. And then he's going to go further. So he says, Im hashamash, but if you count the shamash, shebechol laila nerot Hanukkah hem arba'im va'arba'ah. He says if you count the shamash, not just the 8 candles, then you have 44. V'negdam lamala, and when you count the ones above, arba'im va'arba'ah, those 44 candles that we light above too, hare lamala ulamata shmonim ushmona, then you get 88. Harem is bazeh, and this hints at a phrase from Psalm 124, which is Hapach Nishbar, the the broken trap. Pach Pei Chet equals 88, and so here these 88 candles represent this word pach, this trap, which in Psalm 124 is broken. Where in that psalm, Israel is compared to a bird caught in a trap, and God breaks that trap, breaks that pach, which is the number 88. Al Yedei HaPach Shenishbar Malchut Antiochus. And he says that trap which was broken was the kingship of Antiochus. Anu Gormim Lahadlik Lamata Ulamala Shmonim Shmona Nerot. And we remember this when we light our 44 candles below and above. So here's what I love about this teaching and the second lesson that I want to share tonight. When you just look at the Hanukkah candles, you have 36 below, he says, which match those 36 candles that are lit above when we do our mitzvah below. It awakens kind of the essence of the mitzvah in heaven, and you get 72, so it's that deep connection to God. But when you add the shamash, this helper candle, then it reminds us of the number, it gets the number 88, it reminds us of this pach nishbar, this broken trap. Now, it's significant that we do that with the shamash, specifically because the shamash is our helper candle. It's, to me, the shamash is a reminder to us that candles and people, need help being raised up. You can't just expect a candle to light itself. You have to help it. You can't just expect everybody to take care of themselves. You have to help your neighbor. And when you add that essence of help into the equation, then you're able to overcome these traps, these snares. Without that help, the essence of Hanukkah is a reminder of God. Without the extra shamash candle, then we have this deep connection to God. But then when you add the shamash candle, you have not only God's help, but it's a reminder of that human quality of help too. So the second lesson of Hanukkah is, as far as the number of candles, it's a reminder to us that when we help each other, then we can overcome traps and those who try to ensnare us and stifle us. Lesson number 2. Now, our third and final teaching that we'll share tonight has to do with the mitzvot, has to do with the nisim, the miracles of Hanukkah versus other kinds of miracles that happen in our tradition. He says, Benusach habracha, Omri. So when we say the Hanukkah blessings, we say, She'asa nisim lavotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. That blessed are you, God, who did miracles for our forefathers in those days at this time. Bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. Ki kol hanisim hayu lamala mehazman. Because all miracles are above time, he says, beyond space and time, we might say today. Like the crossing of the sea, the splitting of the sea, and the crossing of the Jordan River when Joshua went into the land of Israel. These are miracles that defy space and time. They go, it appears against the nature of things. He calls this lamala mehazman, beyond time, beyond space. V'chol hanisim hayu lamala mehateva. These miracles are all beyond nature. Masha ein ken nes Hanukkah Purim. This is not the case with the miracles of Hanukkah and Purim. Haya b'toch hateva. These are miracles that happen within nature itself, different from Passover. Passover, those miracles, the plagues, the crossing of the sea, were, defied, especially the crossing of the sea, defied nature, defied space and time. But Hanukkah and Purim, those miracles happened within nature. It did not define nature. It was within nature itself. Because the Maccabees and their sons, they waged a war, a real physical war. And on Purim, Esther was a queen, a real position, and the miracle happened through nature, not defying nature, it worked with nature. Lachen mevarchim b'Hanukkah. Thus we bless in Hanukkah. She'asa nisim lavotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. Ratzalomar. So this comes to say, betoch hazman. Why do we say bazman hazeh? Because what we're really saying is betoch hazman, within time. Shehu olam hazeh. That is to say, in this world. Betoch hateva asanisim. Within nature, these miracles happen. Shehakol hayam me'ito yitzbarach. For everything is from God. V'lechen nikra Chanukah. And thus we call it Hanukkah. Sherabotenu zichronam livracha amru Moshe nitna be'zeh v'cho nevi'im be'cho. So this is a kind of deep principle that if you look at Moses' prophecies, and by the way, he's going to answer why is it called Hanukkah, and it has to do with this upcoming drash. He says, he brings us from the Talmud in Matot, that whenever Moses is giving a prophecy, we see the word zeh. For instance, like Vayidaber Adonai Moshe Lemor zeh. Like, and God spoke to Moses saying, and then you'll find the word zeh, this. And all the other prophets use the word ko amar Hashem, thus says God. And that made Moses, different from the other prophets, in that he prophesied, with zeh and not ko. And now we're going to learn why. Ki bechinat ko, because the aspect of ko, this word thus, that the other prophets used, nikra mashahu ba'olam hazeh. This is called for things that are happening in this world. Masha ein ken Moshe Rabbeinu. This was not the case with Moses. Alav shalom hayadavuk tamid lemala mizman, because Moses was connected in a deeper way to that which is above space and time, beyond space and time. Moses had this incomprehensible connection with God, nikra zeh, which was called zeh, this. So lechen nikra. And so we say that when Moses prophesied, because of his intense connection to God, he used the word zeh. But the other prophets, which were further distance from God, they always used the word ko. Lechen. Therefore, he says nikra Hanukkah. This is why it's called Hanukkah, and the spelling is going to be significant. Het nun kaf hey. Kaf hey is how you spell ko. And so he's going to explain how that kaf hey is actually from the word ko. Ratzalomar Chanu ko. That is to say, we separate the words Chanu and ko. So bechinat ko haya chaniyata. In the aspect of ko, in the prophesying about this world, in miracles that exist in nature, in time and space, haya chanayata. That is to say, this is where the miracle of Hanukkah happened. This is why it's called Hanukkah, because the miracle rested in the aspect of ko. And I recognize this is a little esoteric, but the basic meaning is the reason it's called Hanukkah is because the miracle happened within nature, within space and time, and not beyond it, not above it. Shaya hanes betoch hateva, because the miracle was within nature. Ubechol shana bayamim halalu mitzgalei hanesahu, and every year on these days, this miracle is revealed. V'Hashem yitzbarach baruch hu mashpia bayamim halahu la'amo shua ufidyon, and God blesses or overflows, goodness during these days to God's people with redemption and with victory. V'zehu sha'anu omrim b'shmoneh esrei. This is why we say in the Amidah, Ula'amcha Yisrael asita k'hayom hazeh. And for your people, Israel, you made like this day, Kehayom Daika, specifically on a day that was like this day. Ratzelomar degam hayom hatsho fidyo beyamim hahem kamo ba'etahi. That also today in this kind of day, just like those days when you blessed your people Israel with redemption. So here's the lesson that I think this is lesson number 3. If you've been following along, lesson number 3 is that this holiday encompasses the idea that miracles can happen around us in nature. That if you're looking for a miracle, it's not going to be like the crossing of the Red Sea, something that defies nature, that's beyond space and time. This holiday, and even Purim, to expand a little bit, and the reason these two holidays, and especially Hanukkah, is so important, it's a reminder that miracles are around us, that we can find miracles in nature itself, that we shouldn't expect something miraculous to happen just because it's defying space and time, that these days are proof that we can still experience miracles in the world around us, within nature, not beyond it. And by the way, what that also means, when you take that into account with the other, so we can review the 3 lessons. The first is that there's different ways to experience miracles. Remember, we talked about how Passover, it's with action. Purim, it's with speech and hearing. And Hanukkah, it's about seeing miracles. Lesson number 2 was that this holiday, just looking at the numbers, you take the 36 candles below and you combine that with the 36 candles above, you get 72. But when you add the shamash, you get 44 and 44, which makes 88. And that lesson was that when we help each other, we can break traps and lift our whole community together. We can lift each other. And that is, the essence of, I think, lesson number 3, which is that we can experience miracles in the world around us. But we only do that when we help each other, when we lift each other up. We have the ability to make a miracle. So if you're waiting for a miracle to happen, maybe you're going about it the wrong way. And you should ask yourself, what can I do here in nature, in space and time, in order to help bring about a miracle in the world around me? Because it's possible, as we said, miracles can exist within nature itself. And when we add that shamash, you get that number 88. When you add that helper candle, which lifts up the other candles, then we have the ability to break traps which seem unbreakable. So with that, I'll wait just a moment for comments, questions, concerns, before wishing you all a happy Hanukkah. All right, everybody. We have a comment. Looks like half of a sentence. What was? Elaine Rotenberg, my mom commenting from Florida. I only see half of your sentence. What was the 88? Our second lesson was based on the number of candles we light on Hanukkah. If you don't count the shamash, if you just count the candles that encompass the mitzvah of Hanukkah, you have 1 through 8. And when you add all of them together, you have 36. You take this principle that the mitzvot below awaken the mitzvah above, in heaven, in a more godly realm. And so The Kedusha Levi added these two sets of candles together. So when you take our candles below and you add it to the candles above, just the Hanukkah candles, not the Shamash, you get 36 and 36. So that equaled 72, which is God's holiest name. Now, when you add the Shamash, you light a total of 44 candles each night. When you take 44 below and you connect it with the 44 that are lit above, in this principle that the mitzvah we do below awaken a mitzvah above, then you get 88. So that's where the 88 came from, which reminded us of the word pach hanishbar. 88 keys on a piano. There are 88 keys on a piano, though there could be more if there wanted to be. It is a nice connection. Yeah, but it seems kind of arbitrary, the 88 keys on the piano. Yeah. Great. Well, with that, I wish you all a happy Hanukkah. And for those who are just joining us, I will implore you to go back and you can watch from the beginning and see what our 3 lessons of Hanukkah were for tonight. So with that, everybody, Shavua Tov, happy Hanukkah.